My brothers and sisters, as we gather here, let us thank God for his many blessings and mercy, both in good times and in bad. And of course, I think that's where we find ourselves in this point in history and what we've been experiencing in this year of 2020. There are good times and bad that are part of our experience. But in and through it all, we also know that God walks with us. God is with us. God offers his generous love at all times. And we can be open to receive that love as a gift at any time. And we know that grace and blessing is everywhere. And that's really part of who God is. God is grace and blessing present whenever we can acknowledge it, whenever we experience it, whenever we find it. And we find it in all things. God's grace is there. God's presence is there. Psalm 145 has been given to us for this Thanksgiving Day. It reads very beautifully, "Every day I will bless you, and I will praise your name forever. Great is the Lord. His greatness is unsearchable. Generation after generation praises your works and proclaims your might. They discourse of the power of your deeds and declare your greatness," and on and on. It's just a beautiful prayer of acknowledging that God's greatness, God's goodness follows us all the days of our life. So tomorrow is a day of Thanksgiving, and we know that sometimes you find that families have a little custom, perhaps, and where you name one thing that you're thankful for in your experience, perhaps in the year, or just an opportunity to identify something good that you're experiencing in your life. We all have all kinds of lists for which we are grateful to acknowledge how God is present to us. But certainly, as Christians and as Catholics, our first obligation is to give sincere gratitude to God. That's the most important. To give sincere gratitude to our God. It's easy enough to recognize the great gratitude we have for each other. That's essential in our personal relationships and our family relationships. We need each other. We need those relationships. We need each other to help us to become genuine and authentic, the person that God is calling all of us to be. But of course, our first acknowledgement of gratitude must be directed to God. We're grateful for certainly the goodness of creation that is all around us. We are grateful for the gift of life. We're grateful for the bounty of the world that we live in. And yet our gratitude even goes deeper, I believe. Because even in acknowledging our weaknesses and our neediness, we begin to become more aware of the openness of God's care for us and his mercy that surrounds us. We are being invited to experience God's grace in all of the divine amplitude, in the overflowing love, in the superabundance, and the ever-surprising quality of his care and his love. God is always with us. And as we entrust ourselves to our Creator and Redeemer and open ourselves to the Holy Spirit, we begin to acknowledge the loving kindness that is always and will always be a part of our life. In the gospel, we heard about the healing of lepers, but perhaps there wasn't the complete openness and generosity in that instance. But God certainly is grateful for what was apparent, that someone came and said, thank you. That's a precious gift always. The tax collector, if you remember, once prayed in the temple, Lord, have mercy on me, a sinner. And his prayer was answered in the fullness of God's mercy in his own life. So let us in this Thanksgiving Day acknowledge, first of all, the greatness of our God and express the gratitude that we have to give God, who is always there in good times and in bad, helping us to see his power at work in our lives.